What else can you see down there?
What can I see on this part? I can see a Pro Circuit dipstick.
The only dipstick I can see here is you, mate. This is take 4.
This is take 4. We've come down to Revo to have a look at my race bike. I'm going to take you through it, the parts, what we use, why I use them, and then we're going to show you a little bit around Revo after. I get a lot of questions asking which bars I use, which tyres I use, what I do to my bike. So this is quite a new bike to me. Obviously I rode Kawasaki for a few years before I went to Honda. Now I'm back at Kawasaki. The bike actually didn't change too much, but I'll go through a little bit of what I use and why I use them, starting at the front of the bike. We use Pirelli tyres. That's new for me this year, using Pirelli, but since I've used it, the majority of tracks we've been on have been hard pack tracks, and I use the Scorpion mid-soft. Any hard pack track, this is what's going to be my go-to tyre. So far I really like that. We also use Pirelli mousses, and they are on Talon hubs and XL rims.
Any preference on the rim?
This rim we've got here is a carbon one, but I've not actually rode with it.
And that's a hub.
Oh, sorry Ed, lucky you're here, isn't it? No preference really. Talon have just built these ones. I think they're the most premium one. Are they the most premium one?
An A60 is a stiffer rim.
How do you know all this stuff?
I know, because Billy likes a stiffer rim at Super Enduro.
I have no preference of the rim. Ed's just told me this is an A60 rim, which is actually a stiffer rim, their premium rim. I use an RFX start device. As you can see here, it's got 2 different buttons. Some tracks, if you're starting on hardback or sand, you would adjust the heights. You want it a little bit deeper if there's more grip. We obviously use the mesh, but if you was to use a start device and you're not starting on the mesh, like a lot of people are at club races, that start device is nice because you get the choice. If you go to like a more grippy track, you can run it a little bit deeper. If you're on a more loose surface that you're pulling away from, you can run it a little bit higher. My brakes on the front there, I use a MotoMaster system. Is that a caliper? MotoMaster brake caliper?
Yeah. Well done, mate.
That's the caliper. Oh, we use the reservoir as well?
No, that's Niffin.
Niffin? Is Niffin standard? For my front brake, we have a MotoMaster caliper. The brake up top here, the pump system, is it a pump system or not?
Do you surely know what that is?
You're so confusing me, Ed. It's the standard Kawasaki 450F, what we use up the top there.
But what's it called?
I don't care what it's called. It's a standard 450 front. It's what comes standard on a Kawasaki 450. I use that, works perfect. I've had no troubles. On the front also here, behind this number board, which is a Cycra number board, we use all Cycra plastics on this bike. Behind here, if you can see Ed, I'm not sure if you can get the camera in, but it's a Vortex ECU mapped by Josh Pitts in America. He sends them all through, comes over to test. But the Vortex is just a really reliable ECU, so if you're going to go for one, that would be my first choice, and it is the team's choice. We have an option of what we want to use, but we stick with the Vortex because it's the most reliable one. Next up, clamps, X-Trig clamps. Again, I used that last year on my Honda as well. The standard offsets you get on the Kawasaki with X-Trigs are 21 and 23. I currently use 21, which makes it turn a little bit tighter. It's what Dylan would use for his Supercross. For some reason, I tried it at a sand track the other week, and I like the 21. We will try some other offsets on some different tracks, but currently I really like the 21 because it gives me that feel around the turn. So, but you have the choice. Also with this extra clamp, you have a choice of where you put the bar. So there's 3 different positions there. You've got the one that's closer towards you, you've got one in the center, you've got one a little bit further forward. I use the one in the center. It's more of a neutral position for me with my build, my height. Bars, I use a 999 bend with the RFX obviously, and I've actually raised my extra mounts up 3mm because the bars were a little bit of a lower bend to what I've used previously, so I've raised it with some spacers to give me that feel where I wanted in between.
Did you set them at a neutral position?
My bars are very neutral, yeah, my whole bike is very neutral position with the clamps. Bars again, not too high, not too low, very neutral. Grips and levers. Grips are Renthal soft half waffles. It's just my preference for that. It's quite a soft grip. It's actually like a thinner grip because I've got quite small hands. This is like the thinner one, so it gives you a better feel around it. If you go for like medium compound, it gets a bit wider, or like the Kevlar one's a bit wider. Brake levers are just standard. Quite like them. They was a little bit different actually, the way these standard levers feel. But now I've got used to it, I like that standard feel with the levers. Moving back a little bit on the bike, the tank, obviously on this one's a standard tank. On the race bike we do use a carbon tank, which is a little bit bigger. The seat's actually a gut seat foam, which is a little bit harder for me because I like to sit up tall on the bike. Standard ones after a while get a little bit softer, you end up sitting in too much. I then have a seat bump, which is just a bar pad cut in half. A lot of people ask that question, what do you do for your seat bump? It's just a bar pad cut in half with some duct tape there. The seat cover just mounted over the top of that, so quite a simple thing, but actually the effect it has is massive for me, having that seat bump. It stops you falling back, so that's one thing that I would recommend, a grippy seat cover and a bump in your seat if you're on a 450 and you find yourself slipping back in the turns. Pirelli back tyre, again, this is just a mid-soft, Scorpion mid-soft. We also have a Motormaster hanger on this, the reason being is because it's an oversized disc. So Motormaster disc, hanger and caliber on the back there, and that gives an overall better braking feeling because it's quite easy to overheat a rear brake if you're dragging it in a race, which I don't tend to do, but I also don't want to happen. On this side we've got RFX sprockets, we have an RK chain. Normally in the races we'll use the Gold series. On this bike it's just the standard black one. On this bike we have a 1348 sprockets. That's just the one I prefer. Again, the way this engine's tuned, that works best. I think if it's a tighter, muddier track, I will go to a 49 just to give it a little bit more bottom to get me into that higher gear, but currently the tracks I've rode so far, this is the sprocket I like. Foot pegs, I've got Raptor foot pegs. They're a little bit lighter, a little bit sharper than the standard ones. With Raptor, anyone can as well, not just me. Anyone can change where they want it, so you can have it 5mm higher if you wanted, 5mm lower. I actually at this point haven't tried that, but we will try it moving forward when we get a bit more time. Pipe is a Pro Circuit pipe. What are they? Stainless titanium? Say what you see.
Say what you see.
Say what you see, like catchphrase.
Yeah, just f***ing right in front of you.
Pipe is a Pro Circuit TI6. I think TI stands for titanium, doesn't it? Simple, say what you see. I see why you've been saying that the whole time now, Ed. Fuck, I didn't need to struggle this much, did I? Kecks suspension. I actually just use standard Kawasaki 450, what comes standard on the bike, just revalved by Kecks. They actually do something inside to make it a little bit more freer so that it doesn't create so much heat. So Kecks suspension on the standard Kawasaki 450 suspension. Recluse clutch, before you ask, it's not a rev and go. I did try that back in 2009 on my KTM. Standard is a diaphragm clutch on the Kawasaki 450 2023, but we now use a fully sprung clutch. Gives me a better feel off the start line. So that's plates and basket.
What else can you see down there?
What can I see on this part? I can see a Pro Circuit dipstick.
The only dipstick I can see here is you, mate.
Like, this has been a real struggle, Ed. I see, how does Billy make this look so natural? I think he knows a little bit more about bikes than me in general.
I think he does, yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard. I'd probably pull someone from the street and they'd know more than me about this bike. Full Pro Circuit water pump as well. And then you've got the Samco hoses. And then all these bolts you can see are Doc Wobbs bolts as well. Doc Wobbs titanium bolts are holding this bike together. So carbon sump guard, Pro Carbon.
Anything else about it?
From what I can see, on this bike it's got standard rads. So down here as well, engine mounts, standard, but they've been drilled to give a little bit more flex. And I like that feeling because I want the frame to flex a little bit more, give me that little bit more feeling around the track. That's my bike, that's how I like it at the minute. I think some things will change when I test a little bit more, but so far, I love the Kawasaki, love what we've got on it. So we'll show you a little bit in the engine room, bit of a secret, but it's not too much, but it's just a little bit that makes it that much better feeling.
It's probably more of a secret on those bikes.
Yeah, that bike is a lot more secretive, the 250.
Is that right?
What's that? Yeah,
that's a secret.
That one's a secret. The 450 is, you know...
Slow it down, basically, on the 450.
We have got some good parts in it, but the 250...
Yeah, the 450s just make it a little bit more rideable. We're in the engine room now.
Now you're really out of your
Yeah, now, I mean, I was completely out of my depth telling you what I used on my own bike, which is embarrassing, really. Here we've got my piston. And,
it's a nice piston.
I tell you what, it was believable when I picked that up. With the struggle I've had in there, it was believable that I thought this was a piston. I found you the piston. This is the piston. Brand new one, MXology piston. Can they buy these or not yet?
Yeah, they will be able to.
You will be able to buy these. So this is a higher compression piston than standard. Gives it that little bit more torque. So MXology piston, which is actually made by Mark.
When that's in the engine, what does it do?
Just stop trying to make me look a
No,
man, please.
show me the movement it makes. Yeah, well, you're right.
Up or round?
Oh, no, that's it.
Up. So my engines, I forgot already, we super polish the gears up, or we don't, Mark does. We put a high compression piston in, which is the MXology one, which I just showed you, and that's it. You don't need to do too much to a 450. A lot of it's in the pipe and the mapping. If you've made it this far into this video of how awkward I've been talking about my bike, I'm going to be back on my bike next week, probably Enduro, which I'll be useless at as well. But yeah, that's it.